What's up, everybody? Couch Mills here, coming at you with a brand new Valorant video. In this video, we got a lot of things to talk about. Riot Dev's talking about an avoid feature, so you could potentially avoid people in ranked if this is true. So we're gonna break all that down, plus a level cap and power creep. There's a lot we gotta talk about in this video, so we're gonna break it all down. But go to the GameLeap website, where we have high quality content you won't find anywhere else that is really dedicated to help you improve step-by-step instructions. So if you're lost, you can't improve, no matter what you do, you can't climb, go check it out right now down below. We'll get you taken care of. But without further ado, let's jump into the video. Now, the first thing that we need to talk about is something that kind of blew up on Reddit, talking about power creep, talking about whether or not they should be nerfing really powerful characters or if we should just be buffing the weak characters. And there's a lot of characters that we could talk about when we talk about buffs, like Breach, like Brimstone, things like that. And then we could talk about a whole bunch of different characters with nerfs, like Jett and Skye and different characters like that. But one of the big things that comes up often is the concept of power creep. Should Riot go out of their way to buff characters that are very weak, or should they take the top characters and cut them down to size? And I think that there's merit to both sides. Buffing characters is generally more accepted than nerfing characters because no one wants their main nerfed, but everyone loves it when their main is buffed, especially if it's a character that is not that popular. That being said, if you just buff like crazy, things can get completely out of hand. But I really want to pass the question off to you. Do you not really think that power creep is that big of a deal, especially when they're just buffing characters that are like in the F tier or the D tier going to the B tier? Or do you think that you would rather just have some of the top characters nerfed down to some of the lower powered level characters level? I want to know your opinion about all that and why down below. Now, there was another Reddit post that a Riot Dev actually responded to, and the Reddit post was titled this, stating, "Riot should seriously put a level cap for accounts to play unranked." And he was basically saying how he was sick and tired of accounts being under level 20, dominating games, getting stats like 49 and 5 every freaking game. And essentially what this guy wants is that an account needs to be to a certain level before getting to play ranked at all, not just being able to play a certain amount of quick play games and winning, but being at an actual level like level 30. Now, NPC Sarah, a Riot Dev, actually responded to this, stating, quote, "Hey there, we also agree with this. As we evolved, our rank entry requirement went from play 10 games to win 10 games, but with the addition of account level, this gives us a perfect opportunity to modify the entry requirement once more. It's in the works, don't worry." So yeah, this is phenomenal news for those of you who have been dealing with crazy freaking Smurf problems. Essentially, they're going to make it so people need to get to a certain level in order to play ranked. And it's just going to be more and more barriers on top of barriers for people to actually Smurf. And this is generally a good thing. Now, for those of you who want to get an alt account, want to grind it on an alt, maybe play roles you don't normally play, whatever, I understand it can be frustrating, but at the very least, you're going to have far less games where Smurfs are just dominating it because they don't belong in there. And when you combine this, especially with the algorithm we talked about in a previous news video, where they're shooting people that are outperforming very high out of their rank very quickly, Smurfs are just going to be much less of a problem, much less often, and the sooner we get this, the better, and I'm really glad it's in the works. Let me know if you've been having Smurf problems in your games, and are you excited about these changes in the near future? Now, the next big Reddit post that NPC Sarah, the Riot Dev, responded to was actually talking about a block/blacklist feature. Essentially, this is like an avoid feature. This is something that has been in a lot of games, specifically my history being Overwatch. We had an avoid feature where we could avoid 3 potential players, and you want to get those players on your team. And often this is something that you could just use to avoid either bad players or players that were toxic specifically, or you could specifically be kind of strategic with it when you're in a stack. You could avoid like all the one tricks, right? And that was a really important feature to have, but once we had it for a while, people always wanted more avoids. Like, it's like, oh, 3's not enough, I want freaking 10 avoid slots or whatever. But the person who made this Reddit article talked about how they just had very toxic teammates and they would much rather just not have the possibility of pairing with them again. They don't want to have to be playing it like a weird hour, get in the same game with someone they just played with who was very toxic, and they don't want to be like afraid to queue up and things like that. Well, NPC Sarah actually responded to this in detail, so I'm going to read everything she has to say, then we're going to talk about it after the fact. She said, quote, "Hey there, I definitely understand the frustration when getting stacked up with disruptive players. We're currently investigating ways in which we can effectively allow players to play with folks that are a little more up their playstyle, but let me provide you with some insight onto why a block list is actually a trickier feature to implement than why it may seem like. There's been other competitive games that have tried to implement this feature, but at high elo, folks use the block list as a way of avoiding players against certain individuals that they would not have a good time going up against. Oftentimes, this block would throw left and right against good players, causing them to be on a mass ignore list, tanking the queues that they join. It's a great way for folks to isolate certain player individuals from queues, even though they intend to do this as a blocking/ignore the disruptive players who are tossing profanities and other inappropriate things into voice chat. Well, that being said though, this idea isn't completely off the table. The concept is something that gets brought up often, and we are down to implement some safe version of it that wouldn't be abused, but keep players protected as well. Updates to come. Now, first off, she's specifically talking about an avoid or a block player list where that person couldn't even be against you, which I think is a mistake. I think if you're gonna avoid someone, the idea is that you completely avoid them on your team, not avoiding them as enemies. And I think that that kind of solves some of that problems, but there are still a lot of ways that people can abuse an avoid feature, especially as you climb the rank. Maybe someone mains a character that people just don't think is ideal and they just ban them, or they don't want to play with them. Or maybe there's like two very high ranks, like you're in Immortal 3 and there's two really high rank players queuing at the same time. Let's say it's TenZ and Wardell, and you want to have TenZ on your team every single time. So you just block or ban Wardell, and to balance the algorithm, you get TenZ on your team multiple times in a row as a way to kind of abuse the system. And I definitely think that this is a problem that can happen more and more. And honestly, the only true solution I can think of is that you get a certain amount of avoid slots for specifically people only on your team as you are in the lower ranks, the more toxic ranks, if I'm being honest. And as you climb, or once you get to a certain rank, you no longer have as many or maybe even no avoid slots. So maybe when you're in like gold minus, you have 3, and then when you get to like plat and diamond, maybe you have 2 in plat, 1 in diamond, none in immortal, or something like that. I know that that's not entirely fair for the highest rank of players, but that's really where these problems come from, the highest rank, where there's not a ton of people to constantly fill up the queues, and it's a lot easier to abuse because you're going up against the same people over and over again with a lot less sample size. And honestly, the higher rank you get, the less toxic people generally are for dumb reasons. Now, people could be toxic for a lot of reasons, criticizing your play and things like that, but as far as misogynistic and racist and things like that, and just being very, very blatantly toxic, it happens a lot less the higher in rank you go. So I don't think that it's as big of a deal up there, but it's still not completely fair. So I really want to pass the question on to you. What do you think should happen? Do you think that because of this higher rank problem, there shouldn't be an avoid feature at all? Or do you think they should find some way to compromise? How do you think they should balance it? How do you think they should create it, and why? Or if they should create it at all? I want to know your opinion about all that down below. Go to the Game Leap website if you want more in-depth tips and tricks to dominate the ranked ladder with ease. We got you covered. Go check it out right now. Now, for those of you who are still here, it's my wedding anniversary, my 3-year wedding anniversary on the 20th, and I need some ideas for what I should get my wife. Like, I have no freaking idea. I've probably gotten her everything she's ever wanted, so I have no idea what to get at this point. I need some suggestions down below, so help your boy out, and thank you so much for coming by. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. I love y'all faces, and I'll see you next time.